and welcome to another video. I know it's been a while since my last one and I apologize for that, but it's just been, end of semester, end of year craziness. But I'm finally finished with all of my uni work. I'm on break now, so I just have free time for the foreseeable next couple months, and hopefully that means that videos will be more forthcoming. This is going to be for all of the manga that I got in this first half of November, and this year has gone really, really quickly. It's quite hot here, so apologies if you hear cicadas in the background. It's not really cicadas, maybe crickets. I'm not entirely sure. We had about 5 months of what felt like 5 months of winter, and then these summer seems to have come 2 weeks early here. It's just been a really crazy switch of the weather. But that's not that important. I'm going to go straight into the manga. There's fair few things here, not a huge amount, but I'm sure enough that will interest everybody, and I'll just get straight to it. So first of all is a vertical release. This is a series I enjoy but haven't been actively picking up that much. I have read a lot of it through the Crunchyroll manga app and stuff. And this is not the next volume I needed, but it was like less than $10 on the normal store that I buy manga from. And considering vertical titles generally are more pricey anyway, I decided to pick it up. And that is Arjun Demihuman Volume 5. This series I know has some anime adaptations, I think on Crunchyroll. Not Crunchyroll. Netflix. I know they're on Netflix, but I haven't personally seen them. But I do enjoy this series, and I have to fill up some gaps and sort of catch up to where the manga currently is released in English. I believe Volume 8 just recently came out. Like I said, it's not a huge priority. But yeah, so Arjun Demihuman Volume 5 by Gammon Sakurai. It's a very interesting, creepy sort of series. I enjoyed a lot. And yeah, nice to have gotten a copy of one of the volumes for a fairly decent price. Next is another vertical release, and this is the third omnibus of Mysterious Girlfriend X by Riichi Ueshiba. I've talked about this series before when in the earlier pickups that I've done for this series. It's the story of like a coming of age romance story. It's got a weird gimmick to it, but it is symbolic for sort of the intimacy of romantic relationships. It's more so than it seems, and I really enjoyed this series. I know all of it is available on Crunchyroll. Vertical has been doing a great job with these releases, and the anime is really fun, so I do say give it a try. Don't get completely put off by sort of the synopsis of it. It is worth a shot, and like I said, you can watch or read it via Crunchyroll if you have a membership, so you may want to try it out and see if you enjoy it. And this collects volumes 5 and 6 of the Japanese releases, which is halfway through the series. There's 12 volumes in all. Next are some Viz releases. The first one being one of my volumes I was really excited for this month, and that is Requiem of the Rose King, Volume 5 by Ayo Kano. This is a phenomenal series. I really enjoy it. I haven't actually read this volume yet, but I'm really looking forward to it. It's just wonderfully done. Sort of a reimagining of history, and if you're a fan of sort of that Shakespearean tragedy, you will definitely enjoy this. Based around the War of the Roses, as well as Shakespearean plays, Henry the Fifth and Richard the Eighth. Man, I am getting my history all smuzzled up. Henry V, Richard III, and so it's really focused on Richard III. It's very, very, very good. Like I've said multiple times in the past when picking up this series, and yes, I encourage everyone to try this series out. It's really great. Next is a series that is very popular, I'm sure needs no real introduction, and that is My Hero Academia Volume 6. Not a favorite of mine, but I do enjoy it quite a bit. This is some stuff that hasn't been covered in the most recent anime adaptation. I'm sure with the upcoming season that this is what will be included. Some great stuff. There's a really good mix of characters in this series, and it's a lot of fun. Not a like groundbreaking series, but it certainly has its charms. It certainly has its positive messages as well that aren't necessarily ones that you often see in shonen stuff. So I do appreciate that, and like I said, really like the characters. And I'm glad to be getting more. I believe this comes out fairly regularly, so yeah, I've been enjoying it, and I'm sure a lot of people have also been buying this series and have gotten this volume recently. Now, next is 2 volumes of the same series, and that is Haruichi Furudate's Haikyuu. So we have volume 3, which is one I ordered ages and ages and ages ago, but it didn't I didn't receive it until just recently, which is why it's in this update. So I was missing this one for a very long time, and then the other volume is volume 5, which is the newer one, which I ordered from somewhere else. So now I have all of the volumes. I did, in one of my last videos, I did have volume 4, if you know, you've been watching my videos. So I now have 1 to 5. Fantastic series. I've said it over and over and over again pretty much every time I get a new volume of this. This is probably one of my favorite current Viz series being released. I'm so glad we're getting a monthly release for this series. Haikyuu, just no matter how much I watch of it, no matter how like what format, whether it's the anime or the manga, it's just so likable. You get so involved and it's really engaging. Of course, there are dozens upon dozens of sports series, and within those series, of course, multiple ones that are very popular. But I think Haikyuu, for especially for recent sports series, really has an edge over kind of a lot of the other ones in just being so engaging. It doesn't reinvent the wheel, as it were, but it's always a joy to read, to watch, and you always sort of want to know what happens next. And you know that you're not going to be disappointed reading this series. It's just a lot of fun and really great. Wonderful, wonderful series. I'll show the backs of that. For volume 3, we have the third years from Karasuno, and volume 5, we have Daichi and the female captain. I can't remember her name. And then one of Daichi's middle school teammates. It's a great series. Everybody read it. It is really, really, really good. Next is the only Kodansha release I got this month, and that is the most recent volume of Noragami by Adachi Toka, volume 17, and the most recent, I think we've completely caught up with Japan as of now. And of course, like with the last one, there's a larger break in between this volume and the last volume. This series is no longer coming out monthly, which is such a disheartening thing because it is really, really, really engaging. You never want to stop reading it. Once you start it, you really can't stop, and having to wait so long between volumes is a struggle, but Noragami is phenomenal. Definitely worth the time, definitely worth the read, and I cannot wait for more. Great volume, really, really good stuff happening in here, and really engaging. A lot of the character dynamics are yet again shifting. Now, it's always interesting to see where the characters will go from here and how their choices sort of affect other characters. So, yes, Noragami, fantastic. Volume 17, fantastic as expected. And I love this series. It's really, really great. Next is a volume that I'm not sure that a lot of people are aware of. This is a older Viz release. Technically it's released under the editor's choice label, which they don't do anymore. If you know the Viz release of Attack on Concrete, it is the same trim size of that as that one, so a lot larger than probably what a lot of people are used to from Viz. But this is Io Kuroda's Sexy Voice and Robo, so it's very, very big, very tall. And this volume, this story is about a middle school girl who she wants to be a detective, or sort of wants to solve mysteries, and in doing that she's actually become like a telephone girlfriend, someone you call to talk to and pretend you have have a relationship with, basically. And through that she's really learnt a lot about identifying voices and sort of how verbal cues can indicate what people look like, how they act, all sorts of things. So she is the titular sexy voice, and Robo is one of the guys she's sort of strung along, who's this mid-20s guy, really into sort of the mecha model kits, not really doing much with his life. He's just sort of an otaku. So she calls him Robo, and she, under the employ of this old man that she met, has been helping solve problems and solve mysteries for him, with the unknowing help of Robo as her sort of muscle when a 14-year-old girl can't necessarily physically take on the people she's interacting with. It's an interesting volume. It's only the one complete volume. I do believe it is technically an omnibus, so it has collected chapters of two volumes. But I haven't actually finished this. I've read about 10 of the 13 chapters in it. It's really interesting. Probably one that a lot of people haven't necessarily heard of, but still worth the read, and I'm glad that I picked it up and could find it for a decent price. It is quite old. It's about 10-11 years old now. So yeah, Sexy Voice and Robo, pretty interesting little one volume series. And it is quite large. It's very heavy use of inks for that, so it is sort of a different art style than maybe a lot of people are used to. But yeah, I enjoy it. It's good. Next are all BL releases. So yes, there's not too many of these either, but I'll just go through them quickly. First of all is the most recent volume of 10 Count by Rihito Takara, a mangaka who is probably more well known in the West for her art for 7 Days. This is story and art by her. I picked up the first volume a couple months ago, probably now at this point. But the story of a sort of personal assistant within a large corporation who has obsessive compulsive disorder and is quite a germaphobe, who has now decided to change his life really and get some professional help with that. So it's sort of the relationship between him and his therapist, and 10 count refers to 10 different things ranging from like possible to impossible for things that he believes he can do, like touching doorknobs without gloves on, and shaking someone else's hand and sharing a cup and yada yada yada. I haven't read this volume yet. I think I've heard that it definitely earns its explicit content logo for this one. The first volume, not so much. But yes, this is a very highly regarded series within like BL fan circles and stuff. And yeah, I enjoy what I've read of it. I've heard nothing but good things for the first part of it, mixed things for some of the later stuff, but I'm sure that I can handle it. But yeah, 10 count. It's nice to see such a popular series finally being released in English. And that was by Viz's Sublime line. That's the word. Line? Imprint? I don't know. Next are all Korean manhwa. So the first one is His House by Haikyuu. I wasn't really that interested in getting this series. This was released by Netcomics, as you can see. But I've heard it's quite comedic, and I was sort of interested, and yeah, I decided to give it a try. It's only 3 volumes, but interestingly, this release is completely full color. The artwork isn't great. That was one of the things sort of putting me off the series, but it does have its own sort of sense of humor with this. It's about a young guy, sort of early to mid-20s, university student, but he's orphaned, and in order to pay his, or like supplement his university fees, he rents himself out as he's a boyfriend for hire, and gets hired by this guy who has lost, like, he's in a wheelchair. He doesn't really have any like physical mobility, so this guy has hired him, but he's extremely wealthy, and he's hired this guy to be his boyfriend, to get his family off of his back for like pressuring him into marriage. Yeah, and then at the end of this volume, you're given kind of a sense that there's more to it than just that. I enjoyed it for what it was. I will definitely be picking up the rest of it. Yeah. I've heard good things about Arjun Demihuman, quite comedic stories, that sort of stuff. So yeah, I'm interested to see the direction that this series at least goes in. Oh, and also, I bought this book, and I bought this book from Netcomics' own online store, because if you buy from them, they actually have the author's signature in it, so, which is really cool. I thought that was like such a unusual addition that you don't necessarily get with a lot of retailers. So I definitely picked that up from there. And that's a good segue into mentioning that in one of my previous hauls, I picked up Volume 1 of Intense. In that haul, I didn't actually mention that I also bought this from Netcomics' store, because it, again, has the author's signature on it. Yes, so that's... I thought I might just mention that here, because I did also this month, finally, pick up Volume 2. This is the second out of 4 volumes that this release has been done in. I know in Korea this was originally released as 9 separate dojins, but for the English collections it's been brought down to 4 larger collected releases. This is a really great series. Intense is definitely the word for it. Great title. And by Kyung Ha Yi. Again, it's a Korean manhwa rather than Japanese manga. I haven't, again, read this second volume of this, but I only received it today, which is why. But I'm definitely looking forward to it, and I have also ordered the second half, so volumes 3 and 4, but just have not received them yet. This is probably one of my favorite and most favorite sort of new BL, gay romance series. It really reminds me a lot of Ko Yonada's work, so if you are a fan of her stuff, definitely get on this one. It's really good. The artwork is great. I'm not going to open that one because I don't want to spoil myself, but I did flip through the first one in my last video, but just as a reminder, the artwork is above and beyond what a lot of people expect for BL. So just, yeah, it's really great. But that is everything for this month of, or this video for the first half of, November. Man, I'm losing time. I have no idea what's going on. This is what happens when you work too hard. But yes, so that is everything. I'll just stack everything up. And like I said, not a huge haul, but definitely quite a few series here. And maybe some that you haven't heard of or weren't aware existed. So yes, thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next video, hopefully sometime next week, if you're not watching my anime pickups as well. Yeah, so I'll see you then, guys, and bye. Bye till then.